All right, hello. Um, Not quite the Salta video yet, but the Salta video will come tomorrow, as promised. Regardless, for right now, I was informed by my good fellow friends on Discord that MHBlacky has uploaded a Wisp guide, and I did see it. It is a very, very bad build and a very bad guide. So I commented on him. Black is a fellow content creator and a person that has devoted half of his Warframe hours solely playing Wisp. I can confidently tell you that your build is one of the most vile Wisp builds I have ever bear witness to, and I'm not even kidding. 3 out of 10 congratulations for winning Wars of the Build and the Build Wars. So, obviously, there is some, there is some joking in the comment, but I get the point in, and I think I got the point really good, because if you try to search for my comment, apparently you cannot find it. I think he hid me as a commenter. I cannot comment on his videos anymore, but I don't mind it too much. I just want to help him out, like in case he sees this video, because he probably hasn't played Wisp a lot. And he can easily just take this video down. It's only like a day old, and then upload a new one with correct information, a correct build, etc. So let's try to help him.
And jumping into it we do with a breakdown of her skills, starting out with the passive, which sounds super amazing on paper, but as we're gonna realize, it's actually not all that important. Wisp.
So saying Wisp passive is not all that important is probably one of the biggest understatements I've ever heard this year. Wisp passive is one of the most overpowered passives in the entire game. The fact that you can just jump and be invisible to anyone without energy cost or anything, and using melee attacks doesn't actually reveal you as well, is straight up broken. It makes any normal mission completely pointless. Like, you can pick up Wisp as long as you're jumping through the mission, which you are already doing, then no mission is a problem for her. It is absolutely ridiculous that he is even saying this. But, you know, that's just me. Let's see what else he has to say about it.
As I said, sounds super cool, but we will see that in practice, we're pretty much not gonna have to use it at all. So let's jump into her 4 main skills.
So in practice, he's saying you don't have to use it at all, but as I've done around 7 level cap missions in the past week, including an interception level cap that lasted 7 hours, I can confidently tell you that after year 2, you can jump and then maintain pretty much invincibility, because you use year 2, you get invincibility from year 2, and then you jump, and after you jump, you have extra time that you can either regen your lost health, or just straight up try to gain time, reload, do stuff, because year 2 gives a lot of iframes.
Ideally, you want to have all these 3 buffs up constantly. Now,
that's also not true. As Wisp, your soak mode is most of the time pretty useless. Soak mode will first of all slow down the mission, second of all it will take from the stealth multiplier damage if you're using a melee weapon. So let's say if you're using a glaive prime, which he suggests using a glaive prime, if you throw it while you're in air and you're invisible, you gain a 700% damage multiplier. When you're using the blue, the electricity mode, that 700% damage multiplier is gone, because as long as the enemy takes a damage instance from you, the damage multiplier gets completely lost. So most of the time you don't want to use your electricity mode, except it's like a survival mission, you don't have much range and you're running arc on stretch. If you're running arc on stretch, using the electricity mode is absolutely fine, because you can combine it then with prime flow and get a lot more ability spamming from some other ability that you may subsume onto Wisp. But it's just such misleading to say that you want all 3 of them at the same time. I get that he's trying to be simple with his guide, but at the same time, the guide is 19 minutes long, so I really want some more information on it.
there is also an augment which changes the skill in a way that instead of having 3 separate reservoirs, you get 1 big reservoir which gives you all those 3 things at the same time, so you don't have to cycle through. But if you ask me, while this is convenient, it also costs 1 mod slot to put this in, and I personally think it's not worth it, so we're not gonna use it today.
I agree with him, but if you want to use all three reservoirs and you're using Archon Stretch and Prime Flow, this is actually really convenient to use, and I wouldn't be against you using this because it's just faster for your mission. If you're using all three modes, then on the mission you select the big mode, you throw it down, and then you play your mission until the end. The buffs basically last till the end of the mission, so you never really have issues running out.
If you tap the button again while your decoy is still on the field, you teleport to the decoy's current position, and after that teleport, you will be invincible for 3 full seconds. It's kind of like rolling guard in that in these 3 seconds, absolutely nothing can happen to you. So keep it on the radar for now. Ability number 3.
It's probably one of the strongest survivability abilities in the entire game. Like, for me, it's Mesmer Skin, then Iron Skin from Rhino, and then it's Will-O-Wisp. Will-O-Wisp is probably the third best survivability in the entire game as an ability goes. But there is some synergies with his third ability when he talks about his second. And I don't think he mentions them, so I will talk about this. So, let's see. So, editing Wisp here, I just realized that Blacky didn't say anything about your 2 turning you invisible, and I think that is why he never really presses it and holds it down to let the people be baited by the ghost. He only say that it draws aggro. He doesn't say that it also makes you invisible. And the invisibility that you get from your second ability is really, really big. It can help you survive many situations, and you can maintain the invisibility while also shooting your gun. Meaning if your gun is silent, there is no way enemies can know where you are and where you're shooting from.
Now, Breach Surge also has an augment, but this is only useful if you use Breach Surge to teleport to some of your reservoirs. And while it is cool, I personally find that this is kind of a bit finicky to play. So if you want to, definitely try it out. But on today's builds, we're not going to use it. And finally,
okay, that's fair what he says about the augment. What I really don't like about this is the fact that during the entire time he says about his third ability and how overpowered it is. I'm not sure he knows about this information, I'm gonna say, so I'm not gonna go very hard on him. Maybe he doesn't know. But if you throw out your second ability and cast your third ability while your second ability is out, then your second ability will also cast the third ability, which if you time it right, then you can double your range of your third ability and blind a bigger area. And if that's not enough, then you can even teleport to your first ability, which doubles the range of your third ability again. So if you teleport to a flower that is close to enemies, all these enemies will be blinded on a double radius, and if your second ability is also flying while that is happening, then you get double on yourself and double on the second ability that is currently flying. And then you can teleport to the mods, teleport to the ability, and you're really hard to track for the enemies, really hard to hit. You get invincibility, everyone is blinded. It's a really, really OP combo that is not even mentioned in this guide, and I'm really, really sad about it, to be honest. And it even adds the augment thing, the power of the augment, because the augment, how much crit you get, depending on the distance traveled, is also dependent on your ability strength. So the more ability strength you have, the more crit chance you get per meter up to the cap that always stays the same. So it becomes way less of a hassle to use it above like 250% strength, which, let's be honest, you should have over 250% strength on Wisp at all times. So just kind of a lot of stuff missing here on the third ability, but I mean, this is not even the worst part, but we'll continue and get along.
long story short, this sounds extremely awesome, but it is actually not really good. This is going to be our helmet slot. We're also not going to use it. And if you personally like the idea of shooting out a big ray that deals tons of damage, then my recommendation would be play Corvex instead, because he has a skill that works very similar, just that it's actually strong. But alright.
So I don't agree with the Corvex take here, but that's just me. After the armor changes, the fourth ability from Wisp is actually pretty decent to use if you want to use it. I do agree that because Corvex's kit is, you need your fourth ability to play, and Wisp's 4 is usually the helmet ability that it's a better suggestion to go for Corvex, but I don't think Corvex is 4. is that much stronger anymore. He shows Wisp 4 without charging it, without using any buffs, and without using Roar or anything. So, of course, it's gonna be fucking worse. Your 3 multiplies your 4th ability. You can use your 2 while you're on the 4th ability and be invisible while shooting it. And you can buff your 4th ability with all 3 modes while also charging it to get 10 times more damage. So, what you saw is basically the damage that he is dealing to those units, divided by like 30 at least. So all in all, your 4th ability isn't bad. It's still path viable, but it's not worth it over weapons. Let's be honest.
In case you take a big hit or your shields go down to 0, that's when you quickly want to use your second skill in the way that you quickly double tap the 2 key, because remember, tapping it once creates the clone, and tapping it twice teleports you to the position of the clone, meaning if you double tap it, you basically stay in position, but you still get the 3 seconds of invulnerability from teleporting to the clone's location. This, all in all, is going to be our main source of survivability because it's super easy to do, has no casting time or animation at all. You just quickly double tap the button and bam, you have 3 seconds of invincibility. It's kind of like rolling guard, just that it doesn't have any cooldown and you can spam the living heck out of it if you really need to. And just by the way,
I completely agree on this one, but I don't think you need to spam your second ability or your third ability as much as he says. Because, you know, her passive is a thing. So after you use your second ability, because, you know, I'm in danger, I need to use my second ability, you can just jump, regenerate whatever it is. If you're shield tanking or health tanking, well, shield tanking on Wisp is a meme in my opinion, but of course Blacky does it, so we'll get on that later. And you know, your 3 is just there for extra damage if you need to, but realistically, if you're using a proper glaive, you were never running out of damage. Generally, weapons with Wisp are super strong and you can easily one-shot level cap units, as you will see on my Stalta video as well. I had no issues one-shotting level cap Eximus units with it, so we'll get to that later, but for now, just know that you can easily just use your passive after you use your double tap 2 as he suggests, and you will be fine. You will not waste as much energy as he will, and you will be way more comfy.
okay, the build. Now, the first thing I need to say here is that today's build does have quite some synergies between Wisp, her weapons, and her companion. So I strongly encourage to not just skip through it, because if you simply copy-paste the mods, it might not actually work out the way it's supposed to. But now, with that being said, let's first talk about survivability.
That is the biggest copium I've ever heard in my life. That is the biggest copium I've ever heard in my life. Yo guys, wait. Yo guys, if you go to my channel, hold up. If you, sorry, I really need to do this. I can't stress this enough. If you go to my channel and then click on my, on this video, that is the guide, and then you just go to the builds, right? I have the screenshots of the builds right at the beginning. The second thing, like arcane shards, whatever thing I want to address is the fact that a lot of, so like this is one of the builds. This is like the first build. People are only here to see the builds and then learn the character on their own. And this is the second build. So if you copy my builds from here, you will be fine. You don't need to like learn the specifics and do whatever you want. You can learn the character on your own, like I suggest in my guide. That a lot of, I look at this build right here. Like, do you think if somebody went ahead and copied this build mod by mod, that they would have a hard time playing the game in Steel Path? It's like a joke he's saying this. There is no way. This is just copium. Obviously he is doing it to keep people watching, like that is, but it's like, there is no character in the game that, oh my god, if you get my builds, you will like not do as well. Like if I gave you my Garuda build, yes, you will not do as well, because it's not the only thing that I use on the Garuda build. The Garuda build is not enough. There is Archon Swords, there is Dragon Keys. Like, I use Dragon Keys on Garuda. Would you know that if I just sent you a screenshot of my build? Of course you wouldn't. What Dragon Keys am I using? I'm not gonna fucking tell you. I'm gonna tell you when the guide comes out. Stay patient. But, like, you get what I mean. If I didn't use a Dragon Key on my Garuda build, then you would know. Then you could just go ahead and play the game and do whatever you want. You know? The build would be enough. The build would 100% be enough to carry you. But this is just straight up copium. So let's see.
While shield gating gives you that brief invincibility time frame that gives you enough time to cast your second skill, after your 3-second invulnerability period is over, your shields most likely won't have fully recharged, meaning when you then take the next damage instance, that's most likely gonna kill you instantly without being able to react in time. How we're gonna solve that? Well, relatively simple. We use catalyzing shields because what this does is it massively reduces our maximum shields, aka making it that they recharge to full much faster.
I'm just gonna go ahead and say that this is completely wrong. This is not why you use catalyzing shields. You use shields so you can shield gate with brief respite. The reason why you die here instantly after you lose your shields is because you have subsumed your first ability with Thermal Sunder. If you subsume your first ability with Thermal Sunder, fucking obviously you won't be able to survive because you don't have the health you're supposed to have. You don't have your first ability on Wisp. I don't think I need to explain this, but it's whatever.
How do we ensure that this little shield then will at least be full after the 3 seconds end? Well, usually we would use brief respite in the aura, so casting our second ability would automatically max out the shields instantly, but unfortunately with Wisp we can't do that because we actually need to take a different aura mod later on, so what we need to do here is...
Why? Brief respite is fine on Wisp if you're trying to do that. You can't because you need to use a different aura mode. Okay. What? Wait, I'm confused. Wait. Continue.
And here we're pretty straightforward. We have 2 yellow shards for more casting speed. Because Wisp is kind of a skill spammy Warframe, you want to make sure to get those skills out fast and not be stuck in the casting animation for too long. And then in addition, I went with 3 reds for more ability strength, just to make sure that those surge sparks hit home even more with the crazy damage. But
so I am fine with the strength shards, however, casting speed is just very, very copium. I don't think you need casting speed on any of Wisp's abilities. First of all, because you're gonna use your 1 pretty much never, only once. Then your 2 is instant, it doesn't have casting speed. Then your 3 casting speed doesn't matter because guess what? You can do it after your 2 or along with your 2. Or even better, you can do it on your flowers to... Sorry, I muted myself. So regardless, it's like your third ability is just, even if you throw it on your motes and do it on your motes, even if you throw it with the second ability, even if you throw it with whatever, you don't need the casting speed, man. The casting speed, like, even if you spam 3, which normally, as we said, we don't need to, casting speed is straight at copium, especially when you realize that Wisp is probably the best user of Madurai in the entire game, and Madurai gives you a 40% casting speed already. So, like, I don't understand why you need it in general.
the only thing that can really kill us is if we get knocked down and then killed while we're laying on the ground. And by the way, in case you don't have Prime Sure-Footed yet, that's not a big deal. In that case, just go with Handspring. It's not as good, but it at least helps you get back on your feet much faster. Next,
So one last thing that you can do if you don't have Prime Sure-Footed and you don't want to use Handspring, because Handspring is fine, but it's not as good. So the best thing you can do right after is use Fortitude on your actual build and normal Suit-Footed on the Exilus. Yes, you will waste 2 slots, but I'm gonna be real, the Wisp doesn't need that many modes to do well. Like, you're fine with running 7 out of 8 mods on your build if you don't have Prime Sure-Footed, and you really need Prime Sure-Footed. It's the #1 thing that can actually kill you whenever it comes to higher levels. Because, you know, as long as you're able to react to enemy damage by casting your 2, you are never in any danger whatsoever. So I do agree with him here fully, just wanted to add the Fortitude and Sure-Footed thing.
let's talk about the Aura mod and the reason why we cannot go and use Brief Respite here. And that is because in the Aura, we're going to use Combat Discipline. What this one does is, whenever you kill an enemy, you're going to take a little bit of damage yourself. Why do we want to damage ourselves? Well, it's pretty simple, because as one of our arcanes, we're going to use Arcane Avenger, which gives you a huge crit boost, but in order to trigger, you need to take damage. So yeah, so much about your survivability and the aura mod slot. Next,
So, oh shit, wait.
we want to
Sorry. I didn't want to blind you guys, but I don't know. He, first of all, probably doesn't know, but you can trigger the Arcane Avenger mode while you're invulnerable in your second ability, and, you know, that is pretty tough to say. He doesn't need combat discipline at all. Like, even if he doesn't health tank with his Wisp, just using your 2 and being shot will trigger it. So, if you want to use Arcane Avenger, go for it. I also love using Arcane Avenger, but I'm health tanking, so I don't need combat discipline at all. You don't need combat discipline at all either. You just don't know about it, unfortunately.
and then Archon Intensify, because it gives you even more ability strength if you heal yourself with an ability, which remember, Wisp has constant heal with her first skill, so that's not a problem, therefore capping out at more ability strength than Umbral Intensify. Then we go for Prime Continuity.
So here with Archon Intensify, the issue is, since he's shield tanking with his builds, he has only one instance to proc Archon Intensify, and that is at the start of the game. So after you get all those 250 stacks of Molt Augmented, you would safely need to either fall off the map or take reduced damage, which you can't really do this with your build. Your build probably dies in 3 hits because you're not using armor, you're not using anything, and Archon Intensify will be up only 2% of the mission. Now, if that 2% accumulates for your maximum strength, then it doesn't matter. But to get the Archon Intensify to work after you get your Molt Augmented stacks is really, really hard in your case. In my case, I could definitely use it, but I prefer being more consistent with Umbral Intensify, and I think you should do the same, just because you probably will have a hard time reproking Archon Intensify when you do reach those 250 stacks of Molt Augmented.
And then finally, because with Wisp we spam so many skills and Blind Rage reducing our efficiency on top of that, we need to make sure that we have big time energy economy going on, and that is what we ensure with Equilibrium as well as Flow, or if you have, you can also go for Primed Flow.
So, some really horrible takes here. First of all, normal flow has been nerfed to 100% energy max, so it seems like he's been working on this video for a while, which is a big shame considering there is a lot of misinformation in this video. The other thing that I need to say is he didn't even mention Archon Stretch on the range modes, because Archon Stretch is a huge synergy with Wisp's 1, and he could probably use that instead of Equilibrium to further boost history. Since his entire build is based around history, he could easily replace Equilibrium for Archon Stretch, and he will still have no issues with running out of energy. He would regen energy very quickly through his first ability, and that, especially when his first ability will have a ton of range and zap many enemies. So I really don't get why he wouldn't use it instead of Equilibrium. I guess Equilibrium is like a standard and a mod that is very loved by the community, the YouTube content creator community, I guess. But it's just very weird to me, because he's losing on so much potential here, and the way he has described his build so far is absolutely, like, I'm dumbfounded. It's really bad. When I was hearing this the first time, I was just wondering in my head, like, why hasn't he tried this? Why hasn't he contacted anyone? And he is putting out this video. Like, there are so many people maining this character, including myself. You could ask anybody that has devoted hours into Wisp. You obviously don't play Wisp a lot. We can tell that you don't play Wisp a lot. So it's just really hard to watch this video.
And in general, which helmet skill you use here is pretty much up to personal preference. It's not like she's forced to have a certain thing here. But if you want to get the maximum damage, then my personal recommendation would be going for Roar, because, you know, Roar being a universal faction damage bonus, that also applies to skills. This will massively increase the damage output, not only of the shot that creates the Surge Spark, but also after that, the Surge Spark itself.
So this is also misleading, and this shows his inexperience with Wisp's 3. The sparks themselves count as weapon damage, and because they count as weapon damage, they benefit from weapon perks and weapon damaging abilities like Zada's Whisper and Eclipse. So this means that Roar is not even close to being the best ability to synergize with Wisp's 3. If you are using the Glaive Prime like my boy Blacky here is, you would 100% want Eclipse because Eclipse multiplies on the Glaive Explosion twice, which means that your Sparks would do pretty much twice the damage they would do if they had Roar, and the Glaive rather, and then the Sparks would multiply that by whatever it is. So it's just way more of a damage increase. Now, if you use another weapon, like any weapon whatsoever, then Zada's Whisper would probably be the best if you wanted to get the maximum damage. This is just kind of nitpicking. Roar is still fine, but Roar is a buff for teammates, basically. You would go Roar on Wisp if you wanted to buff your teammates, not yourself, and definitely not to do the most damage with the Sparks.
This right here would be the full premium quote-unquote build for my Wisp. This here is the more... This right here would...
So here is the final build. We described everything, but I mean, this is a really bad build, and you can see he has tried a lot of form on his build. He's probably hiding it, but he does hide it, but it seems like he has used more than 10 form on his Wisp to try and make her work, which, you know, it is kind of sad to see. It really is. It really saddens me, because, like, this is a very simple Warframe in practice. You just put your flowers down and play the game. It doesn't get more simple than that to play Wisp on normal Steel Path. And he has tried to go overboard on maximizing his Wisp, and he has also failed miserably. As we said, Arcane Intensify will be hard to use after he gets his Molt Augmented Stacks. He doesn't need to spam as many abilities as he thinks he is, and if he does want to spam his abilities, then Equilibrium is 100% not needed. Arcane Stretch is a thousand times better. Not enough strength. The duration is, I guess, fine. It's just... It's a very weird build. It is, and Combat Discipline is just the icing on the cake. Combat Discipline is probably the worst choice of an aura slot that I've seen, because, like, you are seriously never using it. You are seriously never using it. As far as this goes, his build could use only 2 of the modes. He could, actually no, even 1. He could only use the haste mode and his build would work. His build completely ignores the buff up for your health. It doesn't use it whatsoever. And saying that he uses it at all is a big copium. This is just insane to me. He plays as if the health buff that Wisp provides doesn't exist, and he has ignored it completely, making Wisp another boring, shield-gating Warframe with Combat Discipline and Arcane Avenger, which is just saddened. It just saddens me as a person that has devoted, well, now up to 3,000 hours playing Wisp, so it's just... I don't know, this is a very bad build. So if you want to shield gate with your build, that would be fine. But even with shield gating, you still have many issues with your build. First of all, Arcane Intensify would need to go for Umbral Intensify, because let's be honest, you're not gonna get some health or anything like that. Augur modes are fine, but they can go, like Augurish can easily go and replaced by Archon Stretch. Equilibrium can then go because you won't have energy issues. You can add Brief Respite on your aura mode to take care of your shield gating, and then instead of Equilibrium, you could easily add Energy Conversion. Energy Conversion on your build would be absolutely fantastic. A free, literally free, 50% strength forever on any ability that you do. Because guess what? You're getting energy orbs like crazy on Wisp. You're getting so many. So this is terrible. This is a very bad build. This build has literally 3 correct modes. 4 if we count Prime Sure-Footed. So 4 out of 10 modes. Which is why I said that what I said in the comment. It's just... It's really just completely ignores what the character is able to do, in my opinion.
Wisp in specific prefers weapons that deal single big hits instead of rapid fire weapons that only deal a little bit of damage with every individual shot. So all in all, if you play Wisp, stuff like, the Tenet Arca Plasmor, the Natarok, Kuva Brahma, all these heavy hitters are excellent primary weapons. However, in today's build, we're gonna use the Glaive Prime because I personally love this weapon. It deals crazy amounts of damage. It is currently available in the game to farm if you don't have it. And all in all, Wisp plus the Glaive Prime is a match made in heaven.
So another really big letdown on your build. So first of all, you say big hard hitting weapons, and you're completely missing the hardest hitting weapon in the game when you're mentioning weapons, which is 100% the Salta. So the Salta alt fire has the craziest stats out of every firing mode in the entire game in terms of single target damage. It is a multiplicative CO, 1800 damage with 40% crit, 3 times crit multiplier, and 32% status chance. With a good enough build, you can get this alt fire to deal more than 2 million damage on its own, and with a primer, you can go up to literal billions of damage. And this in turn would do the maximum damage possible on your Breed Surge, since Breed Surge was nerfed. I kinda am disappointed that I don't hear the Salta being mentioned here, but I know that a lot of people don't know about the Salta because they don't play Wisp that often. I also don't agree with the thing that he said that you don't like fast-hitting weapons with little damage in Wisp. You absolutely do, because even though the sparks are multiplicative to whatever damage you're dealing, if you're dealing that damage, let's say 100 times, they will still do. You will still do the same damage by the end. Like, if you do 1 damage instance every 4 seconds, and then you do like 100 damage instances over 4 seconds, then whatever the damage instance was for the smaller ones, the 100 ones, you do that by 100, and then you reach the other damage instance or even surpass it. So, especially with Wisp building up fire rate, weapons that benefit from fire rate are greatly helped by this. But instead, he recommends weapons like the Kuva Brahma, which, in my opinion, is probably one of the worst AoE weapons in the game now. And I used to love this weapon, but it's really hard to use it now. Also, I forgot about this, sorry. Glaive Prime, I understand you might have a personal liking to this weapon, but if you wanted the biggest and best damaging glaive in the game right now, you would have to go with the Serata or the Zoris. And it's dependent 100% if you have a Riven or not. If you have a Riven, then you use the Serata, and if you don't have a Riven, then you use the Zoris. Also, the Zoris does a way more AoE than the Serata if you're not using the third ability. But since he is using the third ability, those are the 2 weapons he needs to look into. The Glaive Prime was always a weapon that was dealing DOT damage, and that hasn't changed. Current Glaive Prime is probably the weakest version of Glaive Prime that we've ever had, and even with this, he is still able to do that much damage just because he's using melee crescendo. And because he's using melee crescendo, he can get times 12 multiplier, and that's how he gets that much damage. But a times 12 multiplier on the Zoris would literally be at least 5 times more damage than what he's doing, so it's just very sad to see.
Let's also take a look at my Glaive Prime build here, which is pretty standard all in all.
Dude, I just realized that Blacky probably doesn't play the game as much. Like, not having maxed out Sacrificial Steel is pretty suspicious, I have to say. Also, he's talking about this build and how he wants this to do big boy damage instantly, but he's not using elemental modes, and instead he's using melee elementalists, so I don't understand. This is a 100% standard build for the Glaive Prime, but this is a Glaive Prime build that you would use to do bleed damage, not to do one-shots. So this is a very wrong approach and counterintuitive to what Blacky is saying on this. Also, I'm very disappointed to see such a big YouTuber with apparently very big knowledge about the game not have played enough to max out his mods, and especially when we're talking about mods that are given to you from the sacrifice quest, which is right now 4 or 5 years old. 2019, 5 years old. A 5-year-old quest, you should have maxed your mods by now since you play from back then.
Now, the only problem is, in order to stack our combo multiplier so high, we do need to get finisher kills in the first place. So how we're gonna do that? Pretty simple. In our secondary weapon slot, we go for the Bronco with its special mod, Dizzying Rounds. What this does is, whenever you hit an enemy with the Bronco, the enemy is opened up to finishers. So what you basically gotta do at the beginning of the mission is, jump into the enemies, hit a couple of them with the Bronco, and, weave in some finisher kills here and there to get the combo multiplier up, and that then will stay for the rest of the mission. If you ask me, I would aim my combo multiplier to get somewhere around 4x to 6x, but as you also see in the background right here, after a glaive throw, it takes a little bit of time for the combo multiplier to tick back up, so in day-to-day gameplay, you realistically won't really see multipliers higher than 6x because you throw the glaive so frequently. This right here would be my full Bronco build. However, do note that the only really important thing here is Dizzying Rounds plus the 2 Augur mods here, because remember, we need a total of 4 Augur mods for the shield recharge, and these here would be number 3 and 4. However, there is one last key element of this entire setup, and that will be our companion, about which we're gonna talk now.
Okay, I already know what he's gonna say about the companion. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I forgot to mention that because I forgot what the whole conversation was about. He kind of jumps into too many subjects at the same time and then returns to them. Regardless, the one thing that he is, abusing here is dizzying rounds on the Bronco to get his combo up. If you want to get your combo up, the easiest and most efficient way is to run Vazarin and press CO2. If you run Vazarin and press CO2, you will clump enemies on an area that then you can finish all of them up really quickly. And you just won't have to do shoot an enemy then finish him, shoot an enemy then finish him for literally the entire mission. Like, if you do this and you're not in a survival mission, it takes you more time to actually set up your stuff than to do the mission, which is pretty bad.
This right here would be my personal full build. However, not all of these mods here are essential. The ones that you really need are, of course, Viral Quilt for the viral priming, Panzer Devolution so that even if the Valpaphyla dies, it can still continue with the viral priming, Synth Deconstruct to drop you more health orbs which then get turned into energy for you with your equilibrium, and then the combination of Bite and Tenacious Bond, because Bite ensures that the crit chance of your Valpaphyla is higher than 50%, and Tenacious Bond makes that whenever the crit chance of your companion is higher than 50%, all your crit damage gets a final 1.2 times multiplier, meaning your glaive throws, your surge sparks, all of that is gonna get another 20% stronger. With this entire set,
so I know Umbrella already said this, so I'm not gonna say on this much longer, but the Tenacious Bond is the literal plus 1.2 final crit multiplier. Not percentage, nothing, just plus 1.2. So your Surge Sparks would do a 2.7, and your whatever weapon you have will do a plus 1.2. So it is still really good, and for the Surge Sparks, it's absolutely OP. It's something that you will not play without. It's literally so OP that you don't want to play without this at all. Panzer Valpaphyla is also a pretty good choice. If you have some viral on your build, which most likely you do if you run something normal and not a Dizzying Rounds Bronco, then you can easily just swap it out for an Ardaza kitty. And the Ardaza kitty will go with Arcane Avenger, and both of them will give you a flat 105% plus to your crit, which is absolutely insane if you ask me, especially when combined with the flat plus crit multiplier. So your companion, if it's an Ardaza Kavat and you're playing Wisp, is literally a huge crit buff for you, your weapons, your abilities, pretty much everything.
we see each other, hopefully in the next one, and until then, as always, good loot.
Alright, so Blacky, I don't want you to get salted with this video, insulted or anything like that. I am doing this video to actually help you. I am not doing this video to attack you, bring you hate, and please, if you do watch this video, don't go ahead and hate comment to Blacky. My comment was merely a joke, and I just wanted to throw him the message that, you know, his build might not be as good as he think it is. So he probably will figure this shit out when more people look at it, because I know many of my fellow content creators that I've talked to about this build do think that this build is complete garbage, and it's probably one of the worst builds that have ever been posted about Wisp in the YouTube platform, which is absolutely crazy to think about when it comes from a YouTuber that has more than 10 times my subscribers. So it's just, you know, it's not something that I am salty about. I just want to help you, and I want to get people better information to people. I don't want people to be misinformed. I don't want a Wisp with this build in my squad at all. This is a very, very bad Wisp build. And I have a 30-minute full guide if you want to see that, get information about me and what I do with my Wisp. All of it is fine except the Plague Crit Buff and Exodia Contagion Heavy Attack that was removed from the game. Everything else is absolutely the same. The Eclipse buff, everything is absolutely the exact same as it was back then. Even with nerfed Eclipse, Eclipse is still the best subsume for Wisp, especially if you use the weapons I recommend, which are the Salta. And for melees, I would now recommend the Zoris probably, but I don't think I would need to make another full Wisp guide just to recommend the Zoris. I think just thinking of outside the box and getting another glaive weapon would be enough for people to realize. And, you know, you can still use Contagion. Contagion is still fine, it's just not as strong as it used to be. So, as I said, you know, think of what I've said throughout this video. Rethink of what you want to do with your build. Maybe you want to change it, maybe you want to try out stuff, depending on what I said, to see if it's better and it suits you more, which it probably will, knowing a lot more mechanics about Wisp. And yeah, I really hope we are just in good terms here. I don't want to bring any hate to Blacky, and I don't want to start any drama with Blacky. I seriously just want to help him because he has posted many wrong things about Wisp, and I mean others in general in the past, but here I'm talking about Wisp, which is my main. So, for everyone else, thank you very much for watching. For Blacky, I hope I see you somewhere, hopefully, to either in the comments, my DMs, whatever you want. We can discuss this. I can help you. You can redo this video, and I think it will be absolute fire. So, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Salta video.